Buy with confidence is the Triple J Advantage. 1 year maintenance, 1 year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J. Customers first.
Today, Chris Barnett, ready to take you on another episode of Cruising in this Honda CR-V, and I'll be cruising with a man who's taken our case all the way to the Supreme Court, Attorney Mike Phillips.
Thanks, Chris.
Make sure you buckle up into the law.
Yeah, of course. You're driving.
Yep, definitely. It's more of a reason to buckle up. Okay, so cruising with Attorney Mike Phillips. I guess the most important thing, and we'll just start from there, and see what we have time to cover is that Supreme Court case. So I know that you were. Knowing you, you're probably really excited when you got the call from the Gov.
Well, yeah, it's obviously one of those things where it's the last thing you expect. I was definitely one of those hoping that the governor would decide to file a petition, the equivalent of appealing.
Right.
And it has much more consequence than just the appeal itself. It's always, maintaining, since really 1898, our people, Chris, have never rolled over. They've never given, not even on one thing. They've fought to the end, and everybody understands we're big boys and girls. We may not get it, but we've never let the record reflect that we gave up.
Right.
And so that was important. No, I didn't think I was going to get the call because I know that she has attorneys representing her. So yeah, that was a complete shock, and of course I couldn't say no. Didn't know at that time that the deadline had passed, but even at that,
right.
The next day I found out I wasn't going to back out.
You're not really one to cry about things, but that must have been quite a roller coaster to go from hell yeah, I'll take the case to wait a second.
Yeah, it's not going to surprise anybody. I received a couple calls from attorneys saying, "Don't do it, Mike. That's a different landscape from what you signed up for." But it's the same thing. If I didn't do it, nobody would. And it's not so much because we don't have attorneys here that can't do it. Of course, there's others. It's just that we were in a situation. The governor made a decision, and I'll tell you this. It appeared that at that point in time, whatever advice the governor was given, she was kind of backed up against the wall. The decision kind of seemed to be made. It wasn't going to happen. So, for the governor to change her mind, that's we're very fortunate, and I know it wasn't easy.
Right.
It would have been easier, I think, for her to say, all the people around me have advised that we don't go any further. And they have different reasons, but that's not what she decided. Now the second half of that is and I'll call Mike. that was a surprise.
It's like that old what's that life cereal? Hey, give it to Mike. He'll try anything.
Yeah, I was surprised, but in at that moment I didn't have any hesitation, and realized obviously the next day the deadline to ask for the extension of the normal circumstances had passed. But I'll tell you, Chris, what we just received 5 minutes ago, the actual hard copy from Justice Kagan approving it.
Wow.
And because even though we see on the docket, when you look it up on the internet, that we had won the motion, initially the electronic filing, which we're required to do first, was rejected.
Right. And so it's like one day we reported that our request for an extension was rejected, and
that's correct.
The very next day
I was looking, because that's how I am, right? I'm still looking at the docket, even if technically the cases appeared to have been closed. I was still looking at the docket, and it was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I saw that it just said Justice Kagan had approved Guam's motion for a continuance and had the specific date to December 26th, I believe.
Right.
And I just thought that was too specific to be an error, and we actually received our whole box returned to us saying rejected, and that was after that. So
Wow.
it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. What happened was in D.C. It appears to me they didn't have any reason to really look at the calendar. They counted the number of the days and they said you're late, but actually the number of days, the deadline fell on a Sunday, so we had till Monday. Some people here, I think, thought we had till Tuesday because Monday in DC would be
Right.
Tuesday here, but no, the deadline's on Sunday, and so we concluded, I think correctly, our deadline was Monday. We met all the deadlines we could, and again now, after we had no reason to report this, but after we had announced that Justice Kagan had approved our request, I assumed that she had reviewed the hard copies and made her decision there. But then we received the hard copies back a few days ago, and I'm like, wow, what's going on here? You know, but it's very clear. Justice Kagan had approved that remained on the docket. So 10 minutes ago now, we received the actual letter from the Supreme Court, hard copy saying Justice Kagan approves your continuance. So that's not a question anymore.
So is that your first letter from the Supreme Court?
Yeah, that's probably my first and last.
Buy with confidence is the Triple J Advantage. 1 year maintenance, 1 year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J, customers first. Buy with confidence is the Triple J Advantage. 1 year maintenance, 1 year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J, customers first.
I kind of want to go back and something that, you know, I've talked about on the after party, but going back to this decision to not appeal this case, and you know, you're right. I think it speaks strongly, probably to your abilities for the governor to kind of reverse and take all the legal advice she got, throw caution in the wind, and you know, give Mike a call. But why do you think that it was kind of kept in a bubble? And I know that some of the things we've heard the AG say was, oh, attorney-client privilege, but it kind of seemed like on our end, on KUAM's end, we'd repeatedly been asking, because we knew the deadline was coming, hey, what are we going to do with this case? And the answer we got was like, oh, we're still deciding, yada, yada, yada. And then come to find out that decisions had already been made when we were told that they weren't. It was just kind of interesting. And, you know, I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, but...
Well, I can say I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I'm not part of the, you know, the advisory group. And so, you know, I got the call and took it. But I am glad, though, when I asked to meet with the governor, I was able to meet with her and haven't had any trouble with responses from the governor. I've not asked her what happened in the past. That's none of my business.
I mean, you kind of got your hands full.
Oh yeah. And she's more than open with regard to any questions involving the current situation. So I was glad. I was able to meet with her the very next day. We explained everything. At that time, of course, we had received a rejection. Now, you know, it may not mean much to people, but I made a little bit of a big deal about that word because when your motion's rejected, it means it's not even resolved on the merits. They didn't even get to the question. It means you did something wrong. And I didn't want that to come out later and people say, hey, you know, Mike, it wasn't denied, it was rejected because you did something wrong. And, you know, I wouldn't be too surprised with all the requirements that are necessary, but that's not what happened. What happened was miscalculation, I believe, on the part of the Supreme Court with regard to the Sunday. So when you look at the number of days, it may look like we're 1 day late, but Guam was not. And so that really, I think, explained everything. But I'll tell you, receiving our box back with our hard copies, that was a little bit of a shock because we're like, wait a minute, if our electronic...
are we in or are we not?
Yeah. And I went right back to the docket. There was no change. And then today, like I said just a few minutes ago, right before I got in, my secretary was showing me the hard copy. I said, okay, this is great. This is final. I didn't doubt it once it made the docket because I can't imagine any of the clerks overruling Justice Kagan. She made that decision, and yeah, that was a long shot. You know, I had seen and this is not a survey or anything, but the first 5 cases I came up with for the definition of the standard we had to meet was most extraordinary circumstances.
Right, and I kind of kicked it around a little before you filed. I know that you said it was extraordinary, and then
most extraordinary.
So there's extraordinary, which is the dog ate my homework,
Yeah.
and then there's most extraordinary, which is the dog ate my homework, and then a big dinosaur ate the dog.
It's something of that magnitude, and
so you're able to pull an argument out of somewhere.
Well, you know what we did is we presented the 2 or 3 most compelling arguments, and I will admit, and I think attorneys looking at this will be the first to say, you know, Mike, your compelling argument really wasn't what happened with regard to why you didn't make the time limit. Your compelling argument is the magnitude of this case.
Right.
And I actually learned that from our Supreme Court, because I had an unfortunate circumstance where there was some mistaken filing. I had perfected the appeal. It was for the late Senator Ben Pangilinan, and you know, Ben only had these huge cases, so it was difficult. And it was actually the Supreme Court that said, well, you know, we will balance this against the magnitude of the case. And so when this happened, I thought, let me put that in there. The governor repeated that on radio when they were asking her for her reaction, because I was talking about the natural course of events with the governor, where they're receiving information and they make that decision sometimes at the last minute.
Right.
It doesn't appear that well, I don't have any information that Governor Liu was told the deadline had passed.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that being said, that is a representation I believe I made and made in good faith.
Yeah, and I feel like you're right. It didn't really get into he said, she said, or why, you know, we didn't meet the deadline, but you kind of presented this argument that really I thought captured in as much as you could the urgency for self-determination and what it meant to be denied that right.
Just in one swoop. I mean, you know, we can get into the merits, but I can tell you in summary, I really believe that no matter which political persuasion people adopt or come down on, the use of the 15th Amendment to nullify our plebiscite, I believe really in good faith and strongly that it's mistaken.
Buy with confidence is the Triple J Advantage. 1-year maintenance, 1-year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J, customers first. Buy with confidence is the Triple J Advantage. 1-year maintenance, 1-year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J, customers first.
And that right now is about 5 members of the Supreme Court, that they would believe you could stretch the 15th Amendment to go to an outside territory, which the United States didn't have this relationship with people outside of the continental United States, and to come out here and deprive a minority group, really, within America, the American family. You deny a group the right to exercise the right to self-determination, which the United States has signed on to and really was the leader after World War II in how you're going to resolve the many colonies that 3 of the major powers had. And so when you had Stalin and the leaders from the United States and the United Kingdom meet, the 3 greatest nations, I should say most powerful nations at that time, said, you know, if we're gonna resolve all the different lands that we've acquired now, we have to do it in a peaceful way. And it was more the United States pushing that than anybody. So they developed it, and they convinced Russia and the United Kingdom to come on board. And so they signed that pledge. This is the process. This is what we do. And I would say maybe over 270 million at that time were affected. Of the 270 million, we're down to probably a few million now. So roughly 260 million people have gone through this,
Right.
and it's not been a big deal.
And
The
I think
Philippines
that's-
went through it, you know. It's
sometimes
a very natural thing.
gets lost in the argument is that people wrongly put it on Chamorros trying to seek self-determination. We're
Yeah.
like, hey, this was something that was promised to us by
Absolutely.
the United States.
Yeah, it's almost like war reparations. We are almost convinced now that it's our problem. But at that time, and I'll tell you, anywhere else in life, Chris, if something happened to you and I stepped forward and I said, don't hold that person responsible, I'll cover the bills. First of all, you'd say, thanks, Mike, get out of my way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is between me and him. The Japanese came here and tortured our people for 3.5 years. I mean, that's an understatement. They altered the life of the Chamorro and the entire population of Guam, no matter who you were, forever and ever and ever. And you can go back before that and say, well, why did they come here in the first place? It had nothing to do with us.
Right.
We didn't consent to anything. You went from one occupying power to another. And, they're all very powerful nations, Spain and the United States. And I think it appears to most people, wherever Guam landed, we would have done fine. But the point is, the Japanese didn't come here because of a personal grudge against the Chamorro people here.
Right.
They came here because this is a strategic location that the United States was using. And so when the United States left, that left Guam to experience probably the worst 3.5 or so years of our entire history, short of the wars with the Spaniards, of course. And you have that one life-altering part in our history. Then you have the war, and so to think the only thing that we owe the Chamorro people, if you're looking at it from the position of Japan and the United States, are one, war reparations. I mean, for Japan, it would have been a trickle. They didn't invade California, and God knows what they would have owed there, right? They didn't invade Hawaii. They bombed Hawaii. Guam, they bombed Guam. They caused Guam to have to be bombed by the United States, flattened. And at the end of the day, they were able to walk away from it because the United States said, don't worry, we'll cover that bill.
Yeah, and now fast forward 2019, here we are.
75 years later.
Paying it with our own money.
Paying it with our own money.
Buy with confidence. It's the Triple J Advantage. 1 year maintenance, 1 year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J. Customers first. Buy with confidence. It's the Triple J Advantage. 1 year maintenance, 1 year tire and rim protection, key replacement, and $700 coupon book with every new vehicle purchase. Only at Triple J. Customers first.
People, again, look past that and think, well, it's a good thing. Yeah, again, no debate that you're going to have people that believe it's a good thing and people that believe it's not. But it's that consultation. It's just like what's going on right now with the ancient villages and
Right.
just the treatment. And it's like, that's motherhood. How can you tell me? Really, is it that important that you need to bulldoze right through, or you keep debating whether we've been here for 4,000 or 5,000 years. You debate whether we're real. Sometimes we debate whether we're real. And I don't know if you're full-blooded or not. I mean, that's what is that? And
Barnett and Phillips.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, you are full-blooded, and I am full-blooded. I learned that from one of my teachers at GW Salavilla.
Right.
Yeah, he made it very clear, Mike, you're full-blooded. There's no such thing as half-blood. But the point is that, yeah, without appreciation on our part, we take all this for granted and we just say they get to do what they want. And again, Chris, they would not do this in California. They would not take 2/3 of Washington, D.C.
and if they tried to do it in California and people were against it, no one would say, "Oh, you're unpatriotic" or "You're ungrateful."
Absolutely
and it's like anybody who, I mean, I've been a support. Critical thinking is where I'm at, and I think it's well within reason for people to criticize this build-up. And if they do, it doesn't mean they're not patriotic or
no, of course not.
They hate America.
Yeah, no. In fact, some of our biggest supporters are the World War II, the people that we call the liberators. you know, some of our biggest
Yeah,
supporters.
you know, that's funny. I spoke with one of the liberators years ago, and he was like, "Man, I thought that we liberated you guys. They still
Yeah.
haven't. What?"
Yeah, that's where it really comes down to heart and soul, and no games played, huh?
Yeah.
People giving their lives, and they're thinking that this
They're
is
doing
for,
it for
yeah,
a
freedom.
cause, right?
Yeah. Not just any kind of freedom, but American democratic freedom. And at the heart of democracy is the consent of the governed. And no matter how benevolent you are, no matter how great, no matter how nice, if the person that you are controlling has not consented to your benevolent, you know, greatness, then it's not a true democracy.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on, Mike. It's always good talking with you, and I know you're
Enjoy.
busy. I know you got that appeal to write.
Got that, and
There goes your holidays.
Yeah.
So that's due December 26th.
December 26th. Yeah, December 26th.
So we know what you're going to be doing at Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping to get it done before then.
Oh,
that's the plan, and that's the plan in our office. So we'll see. But you know, glad that there's at least a chance. And win or lose, the record will reflect that Guam never gave in.
Right.
Yeah, we've never given in. We've never given in, and I hope we don't until this process is finished. The irony, Chris, is this: that one day it will take place. I had a conversation with Bill Clinton when I met him in the White House, and that's all the conversation was about. And I just said, Mr. President, I talked about my grandfather meeting with the president, my uncle meeting with the president, I'm meeting with the president. I said, it must be resolved in my generation. And he said, yeah. And he said, God bless you, Mike. I said, well, okay. Well, let's do it. It needs to be. But the irony is going to be when it's done, people are going to look back and say, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that bad. And look at all the benefits we get from it. You know, people are always afraid. I think anybody's afraid to be in control. But you know, again, it doesn't equate with statehood. It doesn't equate with independence.
Right.
You're making the decision. Where do you want to go? And that's something that needs to be done. Yeah, absolutely needs to be done.
Well, there you go, Attorney Mike Phillips. Thank you so much for cruising with KUAM, and I hope you love the ride here in this brand new Honda CR-V, courtesy of Triple J. And we'll see you. Thank you so much for your service, Mike.
Okay, man.
See you.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Drive safe.